Here with Seth Kenny and Dylan Rajkovich here at this point about a week and a half ahead of winter training kind of starting up and headlined by the Transformational Throwing Program. This program has kind of been our staple really every winter, but this year, and I'll start with you, Seth, kind of a rebrand of this year, turning the name to the Transformational Throwing Program. Why the rebrand? What's kind of the inspiration behind that?
Well, the core values of the program are still the same, but we've added to it by extending the program to a year-round basis. We've added remote training too. We've also added an app that we think is a game changer for the training that we're going to try to implement. Again, a lot of the core values of what we've done in the past are the same, but I think that was the genesis for the change of the rebrand.
A lot of momentum building off of last year. Rack, you were around every single day up there in the facility. What kind of momentum do you think, building off of last year, do you think we have kind of coming into this year?
Well, we added a bunch of different elements when it came to had a little bit more time when it comes to the weight training. Added a lot more flow movements, mobility work. And we started to see a ton of guys not only throw harder, but just move cleaner, organize their body in a quicker fashion. And I think adding even more elements to all those moving forward is going to be a little bit more simpler too, because even when other guys have other things going on throughout the week, just as things go on throughout the high school year, we can adjust week by week. We can add different movements to certain guys, pick and choose which guys are doing certain movements or weights, certain ply routines, whatever it is. Just gives us more, essentially customization, but also just a little bit more freehand when it comes to each individual's plan moving forward for the offseason.
Seth, some of those new features this year, what are you most excited about to start implementing?
Well, honestly, the being able to communicate pretty much instantly to our guys through the app, I think, is something that's going to be a huge benefit to them. Being able to understand their schedules. High school coaches are asking a lot of them, which is okay, but we're asking a lot of them, so we just want to make sure that the workloads and the management of their workloads, that we're always on constantly. And I think being able to communicate to those guys through the app, which is a little bit cleaner, being able to, like Rack said, customize and make sure we're creating the best schedule for that individual, I think is key, right? And just being able to navigate through the app and being able to talk through that and communicate, create relationships with the athletes, I think is a key part of it too. And to me, that's always the benefit of anything that we do, is creating a relationship with the athletes and making sure that we're building them the way we want to build them, and they feel good about it too. So I think those are the things that I'm excited about.
Okay, I'll ask both of you this, and probably similar answers I'm expecting, but if I'm an athlete, what do I need to do to make sure that I get the most out of this program, whether it's maybe on the remote side, whether that's in person? What do I need to do to make sure that I'm getting, everything out of this program?
To get the most out of the program, if you just follow the structure and just stay on task with it, that's the biggest aspect, and that's for us. Why we want the app is just because, just like Seth said, high school coaches are asking a ton out of their players. We want to make sure that, one, we're hands-on, but if their schedule changes, we want to be able to change the schedule with them, right? Make sure they can stay on task, stay on course for the entire offseason. You don't want to miss a single week or opportunity with them to get better, just because, hey, they got a test to study for and they can't come in that day, right? We want to be able to adjust and move the week according to their schedule as well.
Seth, what do I need to do to get the most out of this?
Yeah, I think we just hit on it. Communication, right? I think that's extremely important. Consistency, putting in, it doesn't matter the best program that you can put together in the entire world. If you don't put in the time and the work, it just isn't going to work. So I think communication, consistency, having daily specific goals on what you want to get accomplished, but just putting in the work, and I think they'll get the most out of it that way, for sure.
Kind of touched on it a little bit, but that remote piece. We like seeing faces. We like seeing the players in the facility. But yeah, if they do have a test to study for, if they have other obligations, there are ways that they can get a lot out of this program with that remote piece, even doing maybe a hybrid, right? In person, remote, stuff like that. Touch on the remote piece. If that appeals to me, what would I be getting through the remote piece?
The only difference is you're executing our protocols and your schedule at obviously not here, a different place, right? We can cater that to what is available to them in terms of what their space offers to them too, right? So capturing video is a really important piece of that as well, so we can kind of evaluate. But we're going to be able to communicate to them as much as we do our in-person athletes too. And being able to get we're structuring every single day for these guys, right? Whether they're in person or not in person, so remote. And we're just excited about being able, and we couldn't have done that in the past without this app and the technology. So we're excited about that, and we're going to bring them in once or twice within a 2 or 3 month period, just to make sure that they're on track and where we want them to be. We'll do our assessments in person, and we're excited about implementing that program and hopefully doing that all year round, and being there for mental support too, right? During their competitive seasons, when they're not able to get there and they're with their coaches, if they need somebody to talk to about, hey, this isn't working, or I don't feel like I'm staying in the moment as well as I should be, we'll be there to kind of talk them through some of the things that they might struggle with.
With the app, I mean, they can upload videos, so if we got them doing a certain plyo routine, right, they can take video of each plyo movement that they're doing, right, so we can evaluate that. But then also, if you're thinking long term, right, we can say, hey, this player, player A was doing this plyo movement, this is how it looked at this point, but then 3 months later, right, you see the trajectory and you can see the development of the video, right, week by week, every time they do the certain movement, whether that's a plyo or the certain janitor throw or whatever movement we have them doing right on the mound, whatever it is, you can track that progress with the video as well. Each time they do a certain rep, which I think is super valuable too.
Right. Touch on this kind of the work that goes behind the scenes, and also the best thing about this program, it's individualized, right? So you can have one-on-one kind of communication, one-on-one assessments, or individual assessments, I should say. Kind of touch on that a little bit. How kind of player specific is it, and kind of the work that goes behind the scenes?
Well, not everybody moves the same, right? There's some guys that are going to be much better moving forward and back, versus some guys that are just better moving, around the, side to side or rotational, right? Some people are much better jumping vertically than they are forward, right? Different type of movers move different types of ways, and the best way we can evaluate, right, when it comes to our assessments, we have to make sure, one, our video library inside the app has different type of lifts. For some guys, they might have hip issues to where, hey, they're going to have different types of hip mobility movements or a different regimen than player B will, right? Player B might have better hips, so he might do a little bit more less strenuous work, but still going to have the ability to clean his hips up, right? Get his hips prepared to work on the mound. But some of the stuff might just be a little bit more specific to where, hey, player A has to do a bunch of external rotations, external movements for his hips, just because player B is just, he can move internally and externally very well, more range of motion there. So, talking to those guys, saying, hey, for whatever reason, every time I get into this position, my, the right side of my hip hurts, right? Or say the outside of my left hip hurts, right? Or something tightens up. Trying to adjust based off that person, but that's also communicating as well. So the more we communicate with them, try and get feedback for them, we can adjust the program based off them, right? If we have to tone down some of the usage rates or some of the intensity, we can adjust the intensity, right? Especially with the weightlifting. They got a weightlifting program at their high school, right? We're not going to try and double up things. So some of their stuff might be, hey, we're trying to just make it a little bit more movement based, a little bit more quicker, explosive work, less reps, or more reps, less weight, I should say. Just try and clean up the movement, move a little bit more explosive. You're doing your heavier lift stuff with your high school. It's totally understandable. We don't want to conflict. So some of that is just trying to make sure we can adjust, but then also communicate with them.
anything to add to the individualized portion?
Yeah, I think the other thing too, there's some misconceptions about, the velo program, and when we're doing it and how we're doing it. I think there's a lot to, it's not just a velocity program, right? That's a byproduct of what we're trying to do to make them stronger and faster and move a little bit cleaner and more efficiently. But again, it's specific to every athlete, and we don't guess. Right, I think that's part of it. Also, is we have our assessments through our mobility assessments. We have assessments with video capture with how they're moving down the mound. We have all of our tech and all of our data that tells us exactly how much stress is on every single release that they make within the program. We know how many reps every one of us doing, even if they're remote, because they're using the sleeve, and we get all of that data. Captured all of the time, so we know exactly how much stress and how much work they're putting in. So again, we can cater it to all of the tech that we have. We know the program that we want to create based off the information that we've obtained from all of them. So I think that's important. And when you go back again, going back to the misconception about the velo stuff is, there's mobility involved, there's strength involved. While I'm a believer in throwing the baseball, maybe not pitching all of the time, there are still a bunch of things that we need to ramp up. The philosophies that we want to incorporate in terms of how we want them to move before we even throw a baseball off the mound. And that can take quite a long time to get into that process, right? So, and again, if we get into overload and underload, maybe we don't want a certain athlete to underload at all. Maybe we don't want them to overload at all. That's why we have to make sure we go through the proper assessments to make sure we're not guessing. So this guy's going to be an underload guy. This guy's going to be an overload guy. We may run and gun with this guy, but we may not run and gun with that guy. So I think it's important that you know exactly what you're doing for each athlete. And I think we can do that with our program. Not think, I know we can.
You kind of touched on it on my next question with that answer, but in terms of the timing and why now and why not, every athlete's different, right? Every athlete either ramps up or whatever, their program, their bodies react differently. Some might start in, January 1st, some in December, whatever it may be. In terms of the timing of the program, I think it's also important to note that the program is as individualized as it can get, so you guys are taking notice of that, right? In terms of timelines and when we're starting and what we're doing in terms of when.
Yeah, it's always about managing workloads, right? And that's why all of the things that we just discussed, including the communication, some of those kids are doing some work with their high school coaches, so we need to know all of that information. And we're trying to build a base. We're trying to make them, again, more efficient. We're trying to get them ready for their competition season. So, and again, sometimes those kids are the rates to get them ready. Some of them are quicker, some of them are slower, and that's based on all the information that we obtain from that given athlete. I know it sounds like I'm repeating myself, but again, that's a huge part of what we want to do. And the one thing that, again, I think there's a misconception. The most important thing to us is to make sure that person is moving in the healthiest possible way that he can, without a doubt. There's nothing more important to us than that, to make sure that they're efficient, they feel really good. And if they don't gain one ounce of velocity, right? If they're moving the way we think that they move, they feel good. We have the information from them. Then we're going to feel good about where they're at going into their competition seasons with their high schools.
Yeah, built into the app. I mean, we also have a command section, right? So during our bullpens, right, we can have a setting put on to where, hey, you have to hit the certain target, wherever the catcher's set up. Hey, this pitch is supposed to be outer third with the fastball, or going inner third with the front door slider now, right? And we can track the execution of those pitches too, right? So even if they're not necessarily gaining 5 miles per hour, right? But if their command's getting better, right? They're moving better on the mountain, more efficient, more cleaner, right? Eventually, everyone's body takes a jump, right? But everyone takes that jump a little bit differently. Sometimes it comes a little bit early, sometimes a little bit later for some guys, right? The best thing that we can do is just put them in a position to where, hey, their body's in a good position to where it's not going to get compromised for when they do take that jump. It's in a clean manner and their body's not going all over the place.
And maybe it's not velocity that guy has to gain. Maybe it's the spin metrics have to change. So, and again, we're not guessing on that, right? We have the TrackMan technology, which is one of the best data. You're trying to obtain data, and that's one of the best machines that you can use. So maybe we got to add spin on fastball, which is hard but possible. Maybe we need to take spin away from our changeup. Maybe we need to add horizontal break. Maybe we need to add, induced vertical break. Whatever it may be, we have the means to be able to help with that process because of the tech, partly because of the tech that we have.
When does the program start? How many days a week, and until when?
Starts next week, 2 weeks from now, right? 2 weeks.
November 11th?
November 11th. You go. The calendars are starting to mix together for me there. And essentially, we give them 4 days of access from 5:30 to 9:30 now. And the schedule can be as many days as they want it to be, right? They can come in if that week it's all 4 days. Beautiful. We get to see them in facility 4 days plus Sunday, so 5 days a week, right? That's essentially what we would love to have. But we know that's not going to be possible for everybody, right? So if we see them 3 days a week, 2 days a week, as many times as they need to get in there, as many times as they're able to get in there, that's the schedule for them, right? And that's the best thing for us is that they have certain times that they can get in there, but it's all based off to them, up to them. Whatever works best for their schedule and their family schedule works best for us.
Yeah, access to facilities 4 days a week, but we're structuring 7 days a week for the next 4 months, right? So obviously there's off days built into that, but we are scheduling every day of the week for them from here from now until they get ready to go out and compete for their high school.
Awesome. Tuesday, November 11th, start of the Transformational Throwing Program. If you guys have any questions, obviously reach out via social media, via email, phone, whatever it may be. Seth Kenny, Dylan Rajkovich, thank you, and looking forward to it.
Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate it.